Alright, everybody. So, today I want to talk about identity, but I want to start out with imagination. I want you to take a minute and picture the largest intersection you can imagine within a city. Tokyo, or Times Square, somewhere in LA that I don't know about. Picture the busiest, largest intersection you can think of. And now, in your mind, fill it with people. Pack it full of human beings. And now I want you to imagine that amongst those human beings, there's one small child sitting on the ground. I recently looked it up and was looking at Times Square, realized that an average of 250,000 people move through Times Square every day. Now, yes, it's one of the busiest cities, one of the biggest areas. But I want you to imagine that. I want you to imagine that little baby sitting in the middle of Times Square. But now I want you to imagine every person who goes through it stops and talks to that baby and gives them a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of insight, a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of their point of view, a little bit of their beliefs. By the end of the day, that baby has now heard from close to 300,000 people in a single day. Now I want you to picture all those people. I want you to picture that baby. I want you to pan out and back away and imagine the world. Picture it at night with all those cities lit up. Imagine all the people in all those cities and that one baby sitting there. At this point in our society with technology, we have access to the knowledge of all those people in all those cities. And from the moment we're born, we start hearing beliefs and opinions and ideas. And now more than ever, we're able to hear them and process them, and even when we don't realize, internalize them in small ways or big ways. And as that baby grows, each day, new experiences. As we grow, each day, new experiences. Now imagine you've reached adulthood, and imagine you're trying to make it in this big world, find your path, decide what's going to be fulfilling. Who do you want to be? Who are you? And then recognize that you're still one person amongst this entire world. And with that in mind, I want you to think about one thing: identity. Each of the interactions we have in this world, everything we learn, everything we take in, everything we see peripherally, affects how we grow and how we focus. And when left to their own devices, we become what the world around us creates us to be. And there's no fully getting away from that. But there's always that inner being, that child, that understood who we were at a far deeper level. That now adult within us, who's still standing in that immense crowd in this world of opinions and thoughts of ideas. And if you're feeling lost or confused, you don't know who you are, you don't know what direction you want to choose, you don't know how you want to be in this world, you're feeling overwhelmed, I want you to recognize that that's probably the reason. Because it's hard. Right? It takes effort to really know who we are. It takes focus and concentration to not just blur into a Where's Waldo background of other people's beliefs and opinions mixed with our own, but allowing our own not to become so diluted that we forget what it was. And a lot of people go into identity work trying to discover who they are, or questioning it and wondering, and spending their whole life wondering who they are and never figuring it out. And a lot of that is because we don't give ourselves the space to listen, the space to, and the presence to feel. To connect with who we actually are, we have to be present and aware of how we react in our experiences and why we react that way. But not on the micro level. Right? We can go pretty deep with it. But I want you to just think about it in terms of instinctual right and wrong. By instinctual, I mean your instincts. If you look at your life and the things you've done and the experiences you've had, if you really think about it, you can start to see a pattern of the experience you have that left you fulfilled or left you joyful, and the experiences that didn't. The way you showed up in certain situations, or the way somebody else showed up, whether that experience turned out to be positive and negative. And through that, you can start to gain some clarity around the person you actually are underneath. The person without as many new voices constantly coming in to speak to you with their beliefs, their views, and their opinions. And yes, are your views, beliefs, and opinions affected by what you experience throughout your life? Yes. But your intuition can still hold true if you give it the space. But the nice thing is you don't have to wait for perfect clarity to come in from that. In fact, I don't even recommend it. Most people who do that, that's why they spend their whole life wondering. What I found to be a much better solution is getting really intentional. Getting that baseline awareness of who you are, what's fulfilling, what brings you joy, what you don't like, what you do like, through intentional reflection and presence in action. But then changing it from that to reflection to active decisions and active choice. Because you don't have to wonder who you are if you decide who you are. You can make decisions about who you are, the person you want to be. As a lot of times we say the person we want to be, but the truth is we want to be that person, and a lot of times because it's actually who we are, we're just not presenting it often enough. It's not showing up in our actions, it's not showing up in our speech, it's not showing up in our hearts. We're letting all the other options distract us. But by choosing that decision point to make that decision, to say, this is who I want to be. Through actions, we actually condition our brain to become it. If I found out that I love doing all kinds of crazy and extreme things, then all I have to do, or if I decided I wanted to be an extreme athlete, how do I become an extreme athlete? Well, I start doing more and more extreme things and start pushing harder and start challenging, and eventually I become an extreme athlete. Or I want to become a writer. How do I do that? I keep doing it, I keep doing it, I keep doing it until I become a writer through literal action. If someone says, what do you do? I write. Right? And eventually your actions become that identity, or you end up embodying those things. I want to be a kind person. I want to be generous. How do you start doing that? You start giving. You start being generous. So if you're one of those people, like many of us, like I was only a handful of years ago, probably. Maybe 2 handfuls. It's been a minute. But if you're struggling to find out who you are, and it's causing you to be stressed out, depressed, and overwhelmed, then I would say stop wondering. Start thinking about what lights you up. Start thinking about your likes and your dislikes. And then decide who you want to be. Decide how you want to show up. Stop leaving it as a question mark, as, is this right? Is this wrong? Let your intuition guide you, but start making decisions rather than stay in constant questioning. In a sooner time than you think, you'll find your truth, and you'll find your path.